Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem. This is a postmortem of my Blitz game number 219. I was white here and kicked off with d4, and my opponent played the somewhat unusual move e6, and this allows me to play a couple different things. I could continue on with the queen's pawn type of opening with the move c4, but the main move here is e4, just allowing the transposition into the French defense, a regular e4 opening. So I allow that and play knight c3, and so now we're into French. The main moves here are knight f6, the classical, bishop b4, the win hour, or d takes e4, the Rubinstein variation, which was played. So here it looks like the main moves are knight d7, bishop d7, or knight f6, immediately challenging this knight. But my opponent played bishop e7. These are all okay moves. It looks like maybe white has a slightly bigger than normal opening advantage. I play the normal knight f3. My opponent plays knight f6, challenging the knight. And now I could just take that. I chose to defend it instead. Looks like that's equally good, pretty much. He takes. I take back, and after knight d7, I play c3. It's not in the book anymore. Oh, actually it is. c3 is in the... It's funny. Okay, so I thought we were out of the book here because castles and queen e7 are the book move. But after c3, it looks like we've transposed into a position that's still in the opening book. Castles. And the normal for black is castles, which he did, okay. And I play bishop e3, supporting the pawn. Looks like bishop c2, queen e2 are all playable, and also putting a little pressure. And he played knight f6, hitting my bishop, so it goes back to c2. Oh, it's interesting that we followed that opening line for so long. I had no idea. Okay, and then he played knight d5. So let's put this on the board. Yeah, so we're finally out of the opening book. Let's look at the notation tab. And actually, this is kind of an instructive moment. I saw this knight d5 move, and I was still thinking of various ideas here. Pawn takes c4 being one of them. And I realized that after I take, he can take my bishop, and it just kind of messes up my pawns, and with the bishop gone, then he can recapture the c-pawn. So it doesn't win material, and it leaves me with a messed up structure. So I was trying to deal with that, and I played the move bishop to d2, just retreating the bishop. But the engine points out a much stronger move here is queen d3. And so it defends the bishop. So if knight takes, I can take back and not have to worry about my pawns. But even more so, it makes a direct threat on h7, mating threat. And so it forces black to play some concession. It looks like f5 or g6 have to be played here. And that creates a nice hole here and some dark squared weaknesses. So that would have been the best way to play. It's just a good example of how you react to your opponent's threats, and you stop. Sometimes when you are just reacting to your opponent's threats, you're better off stopping and thinking and saying, well, do I have an even stronger threat? Obviously, if you threaten checkmate, it doesn't matter if he messes up your pawns. Okay, so bishop d2 was played, and sorry, we were here. Yeah, so I played bishop d2. And that also blocks the queen's view of the d file. So it has a couple of drawbacks. And the game is about even here, from a position where I had an advantage to a position where we're about even. And we stay in this even range for quite a long time. I didn't want to allow an exchange on d5 there, so I just moved the knight away. And so this allows both of us to get our pieces out. It looks like I got some kind of advantage. Maybe black's play was not precise there. But I give up the advantage here. Yeah, okay, so I play queen d3 now. I thought with the bishop here, blocking the f-pawn, he can't easily block this attack. He has to play g6. And also normally you have a knight here, which defends the h7 square. So I thought this would be good for something. But I guess g6 is a good enough defense. If we back up, what is the engine? The engine is recommending just continuing to development. Bring the rooks to the center. Okay, logical play from the computer. Okay, so g6, bishop h6. Getting a piece onto the dark squares and chasing his rook away. So maybe this f7 pawn could become weak eventually. But he has a good reply, rook d8, and I have to move my queen out of the way. And so we just continue getting our pieces out, and we are staying in the range of about even until this move h4. Yeah, this move h4 was a blunder. This is the other point I wanted to look at. Although it's not as bad a mistake as I thought during the game. It looks like he could just continue developing with rook d5, bishop d5. Maybe good for black. What I was worried about was bishop takes f3, because that leaves this pawn hanging. But I guess the engine feels I have compensation for the pawn here, so apparently that wasn't as big a threat as I thought. I could play bishop e4, okay, putting pressure on the b pawn, which is blocked. And let's see, there's an exchange of rooks, and then rook to b8. So maybe, his pieces are a little bit tied up defending his pawn over here, and there's no immediate way for him to exploit the hole on my king side. But he is a pawn up, so I would take black in this position. But well, I guess my other compensation is I have the bishop pair, and he only has one bishop. So so I guess this is good enough compensation, maybe about an equal position. So, but h4 is just a mistake. I should play some other move here, like knight g5 could be played. Yeah, I was thinking of knight g5, and then I was thinking, well, maybe h4 was stronger. But yeah, knight g5, I thought he could just take it. I can attack. Knight g5, rook d5, chase it away. Bishop b3 is an idea here. Yeah, that's getting on this diagonal. Okay, but I played h4 anyway, and he ignored this idea of winning the pawn, and he played the move queen to e7, putting more pressure on the pawn, but he didn't really need to do it. If he wanted the pawn, he could have just grabbed it. So now I can play h5, which is what I wanted all along. I wanted to get over here and mess up his pawn structure. And I wasn't worried about him taking the pawn now, because that opens up the g file towards his king, and I thought that would be good for me, and plus I can usually pick up one of those pawns. They're just weak. The doubled rook pawns are very weak. Okay, so my opponent played bishop takes f3 here, and so I have a slight edge again after this. Plays rook a to c8, and I take the pawn on g6. And now here's the second mistake from my opponent. Really, he needs to take with the h-pawn. When he takes with the f-pawn, which he played in the game, just leaves this pawn on e6 very weak. It's isolated, and it's also on this diagonal towards his king, which means I can pin it. And so I eventually end up winning that pawn after a few moves. So in this position, he should really take with the h-pawn here. Okay, so he took with the f-pawn, and I spot the weakness, and I start going after it immediately. Maybe this was not the most precise move, though. He could actually play d4 here, although then I get a check, so maybe that's not so great. But I'm curious, e5 rather. If he plays e5 here, and I play bishop b3 check, that's probably what I would play. King h8. Is this so great for me? Rook f e1. Okay, I can just continue to pile up the pressure here. His king in the corner is a bit awkward. Anyway, but so I haven't won material yet, but the engine thinks I'm basically a pawn up in terms of the activity of my pieces, and maybe it sees far enough ahead to where I actually win that pawn. Okay, but he didn't try to save the pawn too hard. He played bishop g7. Okay, tried to deal with the threat of my bishop, and I didn't want to exchange right here, so I played back here. Bishop f6. What I thought, just to put it on the board, I thought if I exchanged, he would take with the king, and now there's no longer this idea of pinning the pawn, and it's pretty well defended. I mean, I still have an advantage, but it's not as big as it was before. So, so I declined to trade. I move here, and he interposes once again because of that skewer. He sort of has to. And then I decide to trade because after he takes, I can play the move bishop to b3. And pinning that pawn, and I figured I would be winning it. He can play king g7 here, and queen takes e6. Okay, yeah, so the engine thinks he has to give up the pawn too. He played rook e8 first, and I put another rook on there, and then he played king to g7. And so I grabbed the pawn at this point. Rook takes. And yeah, the engine says I should go in with queen takes. I was not sure at this point if I had a winning edge or not. So I wanted to keep more material on. So I took with the bishop. So if I took with the queen, queen takes, bishop takes. Yeah, it would be bishop and rook versus bishop and knight and an extra pawn. So that should be winning. I eventually end up in that situation, that with the extra pawn and the bishop versus the knight. Those are two advantages, and the pawns on both sides of the board. So as long as there's not some special tactic there, it should be winning for white. Okay, took with the bishop, trying to keep the material on because I didn't do that analysis and decide it was okay to go into the endgame. He plays rook to d8. Cancel that. Rook to d8. Okay, I didn't want to trade rooks here, although yeah, the engine just wants to trade down, go for the winning position. I wanted to keep the rook on. He went rook f8, and now I play f3 just to alleviate the pressure here. I could have played rook e2 as well. And queen f4, and now cancel that, queen f4. And now I took the time at this point to analyze the situation and say, yes, this really is a winning endgame. So I went ahead and took the queen and went in for the endgame. So the endgame continues for quite a while, and there is an interesting moment or two, but let's kind of fast forward through these next few moves because it's a long game. So king up to knight a4, going after the pawn. And I can't really defend it all that well. I played g3, kicking his rook. He retreated to f6 and play my bishop back, and then he grabs his pawn. But I still have a lot of pressure here. Check here, and he can't interpose his rook because my bishop covers that square. So he's giving a pawn back. So I stay a pawn up. And knight d3 check. It's just difficult with it is difficult with these end games with knights. He's always got these tricks. He's checking my king, and he's got a fork here. Fortunately, it's not fatal. And he played knight to e5. He came back this way, attacking the f pawn. Go f4, knight c6. And the engine, of course, is not phased. It sees that I'm winning, and all of these variations gives me a strong advantage. But I can assure you that playing this over the board with limited time, it's tricky trying to figure out all the different checks that the attacks and forks that the knight has. So there's some advantage to the side with the knight that's not accounted for in the engine's calculation. Okay, I played bishop g8, going for the pawn down here. And he played g5. So what I took here with check. King went to g6. And I have to retreat the rook so my bishop is free to move. And he takes. I take. So now I'm 2 pawns up and still maintaining this great advantage. But there is one point here where actually he gets back into the game. Grab a 3rd pawn, but I'm giving up a pawn here too. I can't hold on to all 3 of these. Knight goes to c6. Rook to a4. Cancel that. Rook to a4. I guess I'm going to try and hold on to these pawns as long as I can, but his king, I think, is close enough to get to this one. Knight to e7. Bishop to b3. I want to get my pieces out of the way and start pushing these pawns. Knight to f5 check. King d3. Rook d6 check. King c4. So the king came over here to help these pawns promote. Rook c6 check. King b5. Rook takes c3. Yeah, there. I knew he got a pawn back at some point. Now I play rook c4. If I take the rooks off, cancel that. Rook c4. If I can get the rooks off, this is an easy win for me. But he played rook d3. He doesn't want to exchange rooks. And I went king b4. Cancel that. King b4. Here. Actually, this move is still winning, but maybe not so great. Knight d4 allows his knight some activity. Okay, but I maintain my 1 pawn edge, so I'm probably still winning here. Rook d8 and a4. I start pushing the pawn. d8 check. King behind. Knight e3. Hitting my rook, so rook e4 hitting his knight. Knight goes to g2, a5, rook a8, attacking the pawn, rook a4, getting behind the pawn so I can support it. And now, now I can start pushing the pawn in earnest, and this is really, I'm in good shape here, and maybe I relaxed a little bit too much, because right here, well, I played bishop e6, not right here. Bishop e6. Yeah, I'm trying to get my bishop onto this diagonal so I can chase his rook off from defense of that. But his knight is doing a tremendous job here. It's covering all of these light squares. So it makes it difficult for my bishop to get anywhere onto that diagonal. I have to go through one of those squares to get to it. So, so I was feeling a little bit the pressure. He attacks. Black plays king f6, attacking my bishop, and I played rook to e4, which defends the bishop and attacks the knight. And I thought when I played it this was a good move. I overlooked, though, that he can just take that pawn with check. So this actually gives away the win, and now it's just a draw. So you have to be careful all the time. When games get long, sometimes it's easy to be sloppy. So in this position, instead of rook e4, I should just retreat the bishop. Bishop back to b3 where it came from. Try and find some other way of getting into the game. Even just the move f5, supporting the bishop there, is okay, still winning. But anyway, so I played rook e4, and he played knight c2 check. So fortunately this gives the game back to me, because now I can move my king and attack his knight. So even if he grabs the pawn, I get the knight and I'm winning. So he played knight to b4, saving the pawn, saving the knight. And I decide to trade at this point. I grab the knight, he grabs the bishop, and now this is an easily winning rook and pawn endgame. This rook is already advanced. I just have to make sure not to lose it. This pawn is already advanced, so that keeps one of his pieces tied down, and the other pawn is going to be, black can trade his rook and win one of the pawns, but the other pawn will win the game. So there's really no defense to this. He tried king f5, and so I just come over, and then he switches tack. Nope, not there. I wanted to stay off of the fourth rank. I wanted to come over on the third rank so that the rook stays defending this pawn. And so he decided to come over here and attack my pawn. Cancel that. King e4, king d7, and now I can start pushing the f-pawn. So he walks all the way over here, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but I can still catch up with the pawn at any time. King b7, king f5. Say I just want to make sure I'm within range of protecting that pawn at all times. Rook f8 coming over to attack it, and king g6 coming over on the side. Rook back to c8, and then just f7. So he can check, but I can go here, and then he's got to come back and try and stop one of these pawns from queening, but he can only stop one of them, and the other one will become a queen. So he resigned here, and that's how the game ended. So hope you guys found that interesting. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.